Ellen Buchanan, Director of the Missoula Redevelopment Agency.
Okay. Ellen, could you tell for the folks who this may have been a surprise, who people that haven't been paying a lot of attention to the bridge that would be spanning South Reserve, what is the history of this project? I realize it's kind of the tail end of the trail, the bike and walking trail that goes all the way from eventually Hamilton to downtown Missoula, right?
Yes, it will.
Okay. So where did the concept of this bridge come from?
Actually, the concept of this bridge has been around for years. I think the catalyst to make it happen right now was the Tiger grant that the county was given that is allowing the construction of the Missoula to Lolo Trail connection. And so it became more important to create a crossing over South Reserve Street that would be safe for all users.
Okay.
And also to minimize disruption of traffic. An on-grade crossing not only is unsafe for bikes and pedestrians, but it's certainly an aggravation, if not a large inconvenience for motorists to have to be constantly stopping for people to cross Reserve Street.
Well, especially right there where it is, where it's quite literally a half a block away from Reserve and not really connected to the main intersection there at Brooks and Reserve.
Right, but it connects to Old 93, which comes up beside Larchmont Golf Course.
Exactly.
And that's where the trail will come up.
Okay.
Beside Larchmont.
All right. Now, I understand that there were a couple of other options. I understand that there was an underground option of some sort and then another option.
Well, probably a year and a half ago, we went through an extensive analytical process of what would be the best way to get people across South Reserve Street. And obviously the two best options were to go under Reserve or go over Reserve. An at-grade crossing really doesn't benefit anybody, whether it's motorists or walkers or cyclists. The underground crossing probably would have been somewhat cheaper. It's not a lot cheaper. But the concern with the underground crossing was, number one, security. Because of the depth it would have to go and then reemerge on the other side, it wouldn't be like the crossing under Orange Street on the trail system where you can see all the way through to the other side. You know, it would have to go down and come back up. Probably make a 90 when it got to the golf course side to bring it back up to grade because of the depth, because there's no way to do a straight. It just was very, very complicated. And both Parks and Recreation and the police department were opposed to doing the underground crossing because of security concerns and vandalism and some of those things. The other piece of that is that there's no question in my mind or in the mind of a lot of other people that a tunnel would have ended up having to be gated at night.
Okay.
So therefore you're spending millions of dollars for a crossing that doesn't even have use 24/7.
Sure. Now,
these around the country, and invariably they have had to be gated because of you just can't monitor them like you can a bridge.
Sure.
So the decision was made, and our board concurred that the best way to do this was an above-grade crossing over South Reserve Street. And one of the consequences of that is that we've had to design it in a way that the center section of the arch is removable so that oversized loads can travel Reserve Street if they choose at their own expense to remove that section.
Okay. So how long will it take?
Different than them having to move traffic signals and overhead signage and other obstructions that they have to deal with anytime they move an oversized load, particularly through an urban area.
Okay. So, Ellen, how long will it take to build, and when do you think it might be completed?
We hope that it'll be completed by the end of next summer. The first thing that'll happen is that the center arch span will be fabricated, and that'll take several months to do and get through shop drawings and all of the approvals. But and then probably in the spring, when weather permits, we'll begin constructing the ramps that come off the bridge, which are primarily concrete and steel.
Sure. Now, looking at the artist's conception, it just seems like a really, really large structure. That kind of goes up and then over and then down, as you had mentioned, with several different posts. Is it going to be something that's going to be attractive at all?
Well, if you've seen the artist renderings, I think yes, it is. That was one of the primary considerations by the MRA board, is that this not be a utilitarian, over the interstate type of bridge, but that it really function as a gateway into Missoula, because it's in a very gateway location. And so there are a lot of architectural features that are part of this bridge that didn't necessarily add to the cost, but will certainly add to the aesthetics.
Great. All right.
And the size of the structure is really driven by the fact that the Department of Transportation required us to have 17 feet of clearance under the bridge at all times. And then by the time you meet ADA requirements, Americans for Disabilities Act requirements, for the steepness of the ramps, you have a very long structure.
Sure, I understand. And one of the other folks I visited with said that there are going to be some lifts and almost like an elevator type structure. Is that right?
That's not correct.
Oh. So can you? So basically, it would just be a gradual slope up and a gradual slope down.
Correct. And on the west side of the bridge, over on the golf course side, there will be a set of stairs that will come down if you want to get on the trail, say going north up Reserve Street rather than going down into the Bitter Route.